Create together in our journal planners today. I have a new collection of timeless florals digitals for our planners. I will show you the steps in preparing the pages this month because we want to do something different again with our envelopes, and I want to cut into the digitals and make spots for the tags, and we have a fun and unique tab for our first page. Hi everyone, Patty here. After every project I work on, I like to take the scraps and make a masterboard or a snippet, depending on how many scraps I have left over on my desk. After working on March's planner pages, I put my scraps onto a piece of cloth tape, and for the bigger scraps, I added them to a scrap piece of paper and glued them all down with matte media. This way I keep ahead of all those pieces that I just can't throw out and yet I don't want stacking up. I was watching a video from Bohemian Crafter, and she was saying to get rid of your scraps and pieces after 2 weeks if you haven't used them, so you don't have things getting out of control. I allow myself the month, being I'm working in my planner with a set of digitals for each month, and those scraps start piling up by the end of the month. But if you don't use them, get rid of them. This has become a real problem with me and tiny house living right now. I don't have the room to keep unlimited amount of scraps and extra pieces in such a small area. So my new motto has been use it or lose it. I have become a little ruthless, but hey, it's got to be done. I love using cloth tape from the big box stores in the medical supply section. Most would use this tape for taping up a sprained ankle or a finger, but I use it in my craft room to create snippets and reinforcing spines of my journal. I just keep layering the smaller scraps to the tape until I have a couple feet covered. Then I'm ready to take it to my sewing machine and sew a couple lines down the center. Let's add a little more interest to the snippet with some grit texture paste and a stencil. I randomly apply the paste through the stencil in several places on the snippet or the masterboard, whichever one you're working on, not worrying about the whole stencil being used, just a little splash of paste here and there to add some texture. We do this to both pieces, the masterboard and the snippet. I do not show using matte medium to glue the larger scraps to the piece of paper. I jump ahead and show adding more textured paste with the stencil to this piece. Again, I add the stencil to the piece with a large section in the center and then just pieces of the stencil around the corners and sections. Add a few sprays and splatters and let them dry before cutting them up. Tiny house living, I have my die cutting machine in the Connex box, so I go out and cut a few of the scrap pieces into a couple shapes. I tried using one of my die cuts that I don't use very much, the Tim Holtz styled Labels Big Z die, number 656542. I don't know why I haven't used this very much, but I really like it folded and used as a page tab. I start gluing pieces together along with a few butterflies I cut out with my die cutting machine and put together several tabs. I'm off topic as I played with the scraps for a couple days and putting together several tabs and page toppers. Add a little gold from the lining of the tea I had bought. That really added some fun interest and shine to the tabs. A little lace and balled up some thread and added it under the butterflies. These became addictive to make, and so I went with the process and created several. Let's actually start on our planner pages and get the digitals glued to the pages. I've already cut the white border off the digitals and inked the edges. laid them out in the order for the pages I want to glue them down. But before I go too far, I want to cut the envelopes out from the page's spine, find the pages with the envelopes, and cut them out, leaving about a ½ inch in the spine so we can glue the flaps flat underneath the digital pages we will be putting on that page. Then I have to decide where to put the envelopes on which page before I glue the pages down. After cutting the envelopes out from the spine, I used the peel-off sticker portion of the envelopes and glued them closed. I think these will be more of a writing space than a pocket for a tag. Now cut a ½ inch flap off one side of the envelope and fold the other ½ inch of the side to make a flap that we will glue to the page. I folded the piece down first and then cut the first flap off. I must have the dullest pair of scissors in my craft room out for cutting this, as I had a heck of a time getting this cut, let alone cutting it straight. I find the page where I want to put this and plan the layout. Will it go on the sides as flip outs or the top and bottom for flip ups and flip downs? You decide which way you want to put yours. I think they will go on my monthly planner page, so I go back to where I cut the envelopes off and fix the ½ inch flap that's sticking out of the spine. Make slits down the sides of the leftover piece and glue flat. Add your digitals right over the top of the flaps. I added a little distress ink to the flaps, but I have an idea for the next video where I may go back and cover this up even more. I do the same thing with the other half of the envelope and cut it out and glue down the flap under the digital pages. I'm going to use another page of the digitals that I call background pages. You have 7 of these in the digital kit. I pick one and see if I can cut it down the center and cover these envelope halves. Yes, one page will completely cover the 2 halves of the envelopes. Glue the digital to the envelopes. I did not try to make these pockets. I can always go back and cut a slit down the top or side depending on where I put them. But for now, I'm thinking to cover them and get them glued under the digitals. I glued the envelopes to the digital and then cut off any excess digital to fit the envelope. Line up the edges. Don't worry about covering the flap, as it will be under the digital planner pages in the end. I cut the digital before I glued the other half, or I wouldn't know where the bottom of the envelope was. I think at this point I find a sharper pair of scissors because this pair wouldn't cut butter. The glue out with the glue stick all the way to the edges and corners of the envelope. Fold the digital over this other side and glue this down. Cut off any excess digital. Ink the edges and it is ready to go. Do this to both halves of the envelope. On this envelope, I covered right over the window. Like I said, I'm thinking these are going to be more journaling space than pockets. I tried to cut excess off with my paper trimmer, being I was having such a hard time with the scissors. That worked, and then ink those edges and the flap. Adhere the flaps with glue and glue this to the center of the top of the page, or you choose where you want the flip up on your page. I finished gluing the pages to the planner, gluing down the flaps where I had cut the envelopes off from the spine, and gluing the new flip-ups and flip-downs to the page. Make sure all the digitals are glued down in the places I want them, except the front page and the back page for this month. For the front page of this month and the back page, I'm going to do something different. I picked the background page that has the most flowers on it and cut it to size to fit the pages. I tried a couple of pages to see which one I want to use for the front and which one for the back. I think I'll cut this page right out from the center where the flowers are to use as the front page. If I use the background page with the most flowers for this front page, it would take away from my page tab we made in the first part of the video. I ripped the month of April out from the freebie of months and ink it all up to put under the tab. I would rather make a couple of cuts than cut this piece too small. I wanted the teal leaves to show with the flowers as my tab has teal and blues. I'm using the deckled edge trimmer to cut my pages with. I like the look of that on my pages when I glue them down. When they're all inked up, the deckled edge just looks so timeless. Page is a little big, so I have to decide which leaves are going to be cut off and trim off just a bit more. Then I need to re-ink the edges where I cut off a bit. Around the tops of 3 flowers on this page and around a couple of the flowers on the other page. I make a slit at the top of the flowers big enough to put a tag into each flower. These pages are printed out on 28-pound paper, and it may be a better idea to print this out on heavier paper or back this page with another page. But really, how many times will I take the tags in and out of the piece? 3 or 4 times? I think it will be sturdy enough to hold my tags. Make sure the tags will fit and slide easily in and out of the slits. Make any adjustments to the slits to fit the tags before gluing the page down. I flip the whole piece over with the tags in the page to see where I want to put the glue. I don't want any glue to be where the tags are, so they will move in and out. Sort of hard to see the white on white here, but add the glue all around the edge and in the areas away from the tags. After you get the glue where you want it, take out the tags before you pick it up to add it to the page. The tags could slip and you would end up gluing them into the page, and we don't want that. Once you put the page onto the paper, don't move it around or your glue will not be in the same place and you could end up gluing down the opening. This is a one-time get it where you want it glued down. While this is drying, I put a couple expired gift cards and old credit cards into the slots to make sure the opening was not going to be glued down. I left the cards in the page while it dried. These cards are plastic or made with a slick material, so I didn't think they would get adhered to the glue if it moved around a bit while I was trying to get the piece in place. I fit 3 tags onto this back page. Now for the front page. I think I can get 2 tags onto this page along with my page topper or tab. I went back and forth about adding tags to the front page. Is it going to be too much? So I glued the page down with only adhering the glue around the outside edge. But I figured that the more the merrier, and let's add the slits, now that I have it glued down. Cutting the slits into the page and not cutting all the way through the page to the other side of the page was a bit tricky, but manageable. Just take your time. I should have put the cutting mat between the pages for a just in case, but I didn't, and it all turned out. I did go back and ink the edges of the slits on the flowers, both on the front page and on the back page, so you could see the slits a bit better to add your tags. Again, I added a couple more plastic cards into these slits on the front page while they dry. Ready to add the page topper tab and the month nomenclature to the top of this page. Add glue to both sides of the page tab and adhere to the page. Slip the month under the wings of the large butterfly. Make sure it's sitting on the top of the page with a little bit showing, as this is my page tab to be able to find the month easily. I added a couple clamps to hold down the tab while it dries. Have a great day, and I can't wait to work in April with these timeless florals. Until next week, bye now.